I'm going to kick off an introduction for Stacy. Stacy Flynn is our first Women in Textiles Materials Series speaker. She is the CEO and founding partner of Evernew. It's a textile innovations company that is working to solve the most pressing challenges facing the global textile and apparel industry. Prior to founding the company in 2014 with her business partner, Christos Stanev, Stacy worked at she worked at a lot of different brands like DuPont, Eddie Bauer, and Target for nearly 2 decades as the global textile specialist. She holds an MBA in sustainable systems from Presidio Graduate School and a bachelor's degree in textile development and marketing from the Fashion Institute of Technology. If there are three things that Stacey can use to describe herself, she says she's a sustainable systems specialist. She is an advocate for materials reuse, so definitely reuse a lot of material, and she's a social entrepreneur. Please put your hands together to welcome Stacy to our materials interest group. I know we're all like kind of on mute and doing that. There's like a reactions button. There you go. Everyone knows how to use those. Welcome, Stacy. The floor is yours, and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me for this first event. Yeah, it's a little strange because I can't see anyone here, so I'm just going to talk, and then we'll move into a Q&A, okay?
Sounds great.
Wonderful. So, as you mentioned in my opening, I have a long history in the textile and apparel industry, and had a long history before starting this company. In fact, I never really wanted to start a company. I worked for really large businesses, started my career at DuPont in New York, and then I was the first hire into Target's raw materials division, and then Eddie Bauer moved me to the West Coast to manage their denim businesses. Then this is where I live now. You can see Lake Union behind me. And in 2010, I began working in materials reuse. This was just around the time when we were starting to really talk about sustainability in fashion. I started to get excited about what could be done with waste. At that time, recycled PET had been around for about 20 years, but it hadn't really gained much popularity until about 2010. We were playing with the recycled PET and having a lot of luck making fabrics and garments from waste that nobody knew that they were from waste. So that was really cool. My goal then was is there a way to take this waste and depolymerize it and turn it back into something new and useful again? So I started to get really excited about what we could do and the potential of materials reuse. This company, it was a startup here in Seattle. They sent me to China in 2010 to find sources of small run production for their product development. And I'd been to China many times before 2010, but I'd never been into the subcontracted areas of China to see how we're getting to low price. And what I had not realized was how many corners are being cut on the environment and how people are living as a result of that environmental damage. My colleague and I got to this one location. We were all over China. We got to this one location and the air quality was so thick, we were standing next to each other, but we couldn't see each other. The air quality was so thick with pollution. We took our elevator up to a meeting room, and this cloud from outside was hovering over our heads as we sat at a table talking about how we could do business with this company. This trip really shocked me awake because, the conditions did not improve after traveling around the country for a month. And I just realized, like, the scope and size of this industry, this can't be how the story ends. And I decided on that trip that I wanted to use the rest of my career to find solutions that were powerful enough to scale, but scale in a way that wasn't so damaging to our natural resources, primarily air, water, soil, trees. And my thought was let's leverage the waste. So I decided to go back to graduate school. I got an MBA in sustainable systems, and at this time, this was back in 2011. The fashion industry, textile industry was just starting to talk about sustainability, but the languages were very different between the textile and apparel industry and the industry of sustainability. And I went to graduate school specifically to learn this language. How can we learn a language that's universal? How do we start talking about sustainable systems within the textile and apparel industry? Because if we can't talk about it, we can't really fix it. So that was the primary goal of me going to school. Now, what ended up happening when I was there is I was in their intrapreneuring program where you innovate from within large organizations. And frankly, that's where I was comfortable. I was comfortable getting a paycheck from someone and doing a job and being able to, travel the world and do what I was doing. What I was encouraged to do was join the entrepreneuring program, which I was not comfortable with because, all of the entrepreneurs that were developing technologies and businesses, they were unfunded. And I thought that was just a ludicrous thing. I wasn't interested in being unfunded, but I ended up going into that program. I will say unwillingly at first, but I ended up going into that program and sitting down with the instructor, and he said, "Can you just build me a prototype of what you're thinking?" And that at that time, we took one of my old college T-shirts from a solid to a liquid and back to a solid with a syringe. And I put my 3 little samples in 3 beakers, and I said, "Here's the idea: solid textile waste, we liquefy it and we repolymerize it into new fiber, and we spin new yarns and make new textiles from it." The instructor was just blown away by the prototype, and he encouraged me and guided me on how to start thinking about building a business. I enlisted in every business case competition I could get, which is a very poor source of funding, I will say, because I crashed and burned quite a bit on the business case competitive business case competition circuit. Some of them we won. We won the Walmart Better Living Business Case Challenge 2 years in a row, the regional division. And I got a lot of experience fast pitching. And that ended up coming in really handy as an entrepreneur, because you've got to be able to talk about your business. You've got to pitch it fast, and you've got to get people inspired by what you're doing. Even if it hasn't been fully created yet, you've got to enlist people in the vision. So in 2014, we won a massive business case competition. We not only won the grand prize, we won audience choice and, best in show. Like, we just swept this major competition, professional competition in Seattle. And with that grand prize came a last money investment. And Christo ended up quitting his job in New York City, my business partner, and joining me full time after we won that competition at the end of 2014. Christo, I will just say a few words about Christo Stanev. He and I met each other. He was my mentor at Target. He's a textile engineer, textile chemist. He's just an incredible, if you've been in this industry a while, you may even have worked with Christo. He's just an incredible mentor and teacher. I remember once at Target, I went to him with a problem, and he said to me, "Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go back to your desk and research 3 different options and then present them to me. come to me with a point of view on which one you think is the best, and then I'll help guide you. And I was like, you could just tell me. And he was like, no, trust me, go do the work. And this is how I want to do this. So I went back to my desk. I pulled all the research, and there was a clear front runner that emerged, and I presented my 3 options to him and my front runner with the recommendation. And I said, this is the one I think we need to go forward with. And he was like, yeah, I would do that. And I was like, and your skills will kick in at what point? And he said, I will teach you how to do what I do, but I'm going to teach you to do it for yourself. And when you need my help, I will help you. But until you need my help, I'm going to train you. So that is how Cristo operates. I know how to extrude fiber. I know how to clean textile waste. I know how to spin it into new yarn. And he's been my mentor every step of the way. And you can also, our team will attest that he is probably one of the best teachers, educators around when it comes to textile innovation. And he's got a long history in innovation as well. So in 2015, we started down the path of getting funding for the business. Now, fundraising is one of the most thankless jobs on the planet. No one can prepare you for the rejection that comes with fundraising. I've talked with probably thousands of investors. I've closed hundreds of investors. And it is a tough job because there's a lot of no's, not right nows. One of the things I did not know, which I've done a pretty good job with, is a no is generally not a hard no. Usually, very few people will say, we hate your idea, we'd never want to talk to you again. Nobody ever says that. Usually it's a not right now. It's not a fit right now. Let's talk again. And keeping people informed, every 90 days, every 120 days is a really important piece of this process, because that's how I've closed a lot of not only investors, but accounts as well, is keeping people informed and staying connected. Now, there are more accounts than there are of me, so it's getting more and more challenging, but I always appreciate when people reach out to me to stay connected and informed on what's going on. So that's a really big piece of it. So in 2015, when we got our first funding, we started building out our prototyping capabilities. And in 2015, we built a first jean in partnership with Levi's. It was a labor of love. The fiber was very fragile, very brittle. It was falling apart as we hand spun it. It was falling apart as we spun it. We had my old weaving instructor from FIT hand wove the denim for us. It was beautiful selvedge denim. Kathy Hattori from Botanical Colors here in Seattle dyed our warp for us, so it was beautiful. And we hand loomed a beautiful piece of fabric for Levi's as an initial proof of concept. And then they cut 2 pairs of 501s, a pair for us so we could put them in front of investors, because investors didn't understand what fiber was, but they definitely understood what a pair of 501s were. So, and then Levi's also kept a pair of those as well. And I actually have them in a file cabinet over in front of me. So I probably should have grabbed them to show you. But we just kept expanding our technology and our product categories. We brought on 4 early adopters initially. Our theory was, we don't have to really work with every major branded retailer in the industry. We just need to work with a cross section of them to understand how their businesses actually work. So we worked with Stella McCartney on the luxury side, Adidas on the athletic side, Levi's on the denim side, and then Target on the mass retailer side. So those are first 4 early adopters that are public. We've got about 40 active brand retail accounts right now, and we're working on bringing those products to market now. Now, our original go-to-market strategy was supposed to happen in 2020, and if there are any other early stage companies on this call that had big hopes for 2020, we were among the group of constituents that had our hopes crushed pretty hard in 2020 when all of our retail launches got canceled. And our bank account was dwindling, and we clearly saw the end of the road. Working for an early stage company is not for everyone. There's a lot of risk involved, and you have to confront that risk every day. But 2020 and 2021 were really brutal years for us. The only thing we could do was double down on our product development. We were like, just go out and see how our partners are doing, see what they need, see what their problems are, see what they're concerned about, stay human, see what we can do to help. And let's just hit the gas on R&D and product development. So we were able to get some really incredible work done during COVID. We got our recyclable stretch product developed, which we've got a technology that makes stretch fiber universally recyclable. We've got a technology that basically turns cotton waste into lyocell fiber, and that is our first real launch, and that's actually launching tomorrow. So we've got also our blend separation technology. We had a patent issued for that last summer. And we've also got, we're working with a partner to make sewing thread universally recyclable. We're working with automotive makers on faux leather replacements that meet the quality requirements for automotive and make those seat covers fully recyclable. We've been working with a cosmetics company to make a recyclable or compostable makeup applicator. So just tons of really interesting requests, and we were able to get quite a bit of work done, through those accounts, and we've been able to convert a lot of those to new clients, which is incredible. From there, we were able to, push hard enough to get enough clients in place and under R&D that we got investors excited about what we were doing. So we were able to close the Series B in 2021 last year. So that was incredible. And now we're really focusing on building out our first demonstration facility. So we've got a facility that we're building down in the Southeast US, and this will be the first facility that is basically tuned for technology expansion for textile recycling. So we have a mechanical scanning equipment that we're going to be installing. We already operate that down in South Carolina, but basically you pass textiles through this scanning device. It's kind of like the similar scanning when you go to the airport and they look in your bag. We trained the camera to pick up the digital signature of different fibers so we can get a really good mix of different textiles. Once the textiles are identified, our first technology breaks down cotton. Once the cotton waste has been sorted and we know that it's cotton, fun fact, about 40% of all 100% cotton garments actually contain quite a bit of polyester. So we didn't know that until we found out the hard way, because when you do chemical recycling and you've got a lot of polyester, you are either going to overdose or underdose on your formulation. So we had to build a foolproof way of picking up that fiber content, even if the label says something completely different. So that was something that we learned the hard way, and we learned early on. So it's a critical part for chemical recycling to get a good mechanical sort system in place. This facility will then take the cotton waste and we turn it into what looks like a pulp. Looks like a paper pulp. Actually have some here. So this is cotton waste, And basically this can then be dissolved with, we're using lyocell right now. It can be dissolved into 100% lyocell fiber, 100% waste going into 100% lyocell fiber, and the fiber properties, strength properties are stronger than nylon, stronger than polyester, which is really incredible that we've got a cellulosic backbone that is actually outperforming petroleum-based polymers, and the fiber is recyclable. So I am passionate, our company is passionate about cracking the code on garment recycling. All of our technologies break down waste, but that's only half the problem. The other part of the problem, which is probably a bigger issue, especially if we're looking at how are we going to reduce impact, we've got to prevent these resources from going into landfills and incinerators when they're truly at the end of their life. So how do we depolymerize them after all of those garments have gone through the reuse and rewear channels? How do we take those products back and turn them back into premium new fiber again, and do it all over? So that is what we are testing and what we have been successful with. So this new facility down in South Carolina will be getting our first technology off the ground. And I think I mentioned it's tuned for technology expansion. So as the blend separation technologies become available, we'll be bolting those on. But it will also be an R&D center for brands, retailers, designers to come and build new concepts from the polymer up, and then we can prove that we can take them back and recycle them again. The impact reduction, I'll just speak really briefly on that. Impact reduction has to be our main focal point here. Preventing textiles from entering the landfills and incinerators is where we get the biggest, it's an avoidance credit, because right now that's their fate. Even if you can recycle them one time, it's really a delay in the inevitable. How do we keep these textiles in perpetual motion? And when they're truly ready to be retired, these polymers, how do we safely retire them back to the earth in a way where we're not burying them or burning them? So that's really our goal. And then in terms of looking at 90% of the market, which is polyester and cotton, poly being about 60%, cotton being about 30%. Our technologies reduce water by 98% compared to cotton, and we reduce CO2 by over 90% compared to polyester. So it's a massive reduction of impact for the technologies. And we're also learning a lot as we build this first facility, how we actually continue to improve our environmental impact reduction metrics. So that's been a really interesting process. And energy is one of the ways in which we can do that. So the energy sources for the facility are critical at getting those metrics to be as low as possible. So in my opinion, we've got about 20 years of very intense R&D ahead of us to reverse the effects of the last 100 years of collateral damage in this space. Myself, my team, and our partners are all committed to seeing our industry left better than when we entered it. We're also partnering with people in very unconventional ways to try to join forces to do more with what already exists. The solution here is not, no one's got a silver bullet. No one's got one solution. We've got to figure out creative ways to work in the future. And I believe it's a partnership model. And we've got to try to leverage the existing infrastructure and existing intelligence as much as possible to try to get some of these technologies lifted faster than we have in the past. Typically, when you bring a new technology like this into market, it takes about 20 years to commercialize and get into economies of scale. We were attempting to do it in 5, and we would have done it if COVID didn't happen. So we'll take 7. We're at 7 now. So we're trying to just show that these technologies can be scaled efficiently. And then we're partnering with folks who are interested in licensing them from us to scale them around the world. So that's going to be the next step, is to elegantly scale through a licensing model with the existing infrastructure as much as possible. So I think I'll take a pause, and I've just rattled a whole lot of information at you guys. I hope you're still there and no one's sleeping, but I'll just see what questions you have. Thank you.
Awesome, Stacy. Thank you. I was basically making voracious notes like I was back in school. So this is very exciting to hear your journey, to hear how Evernew started, and kind of how its journey has been so far. I would encourage everyone who has a question to start typing them out in the chat. While they kind of start doing that, I had a couple of questions just listening to your journey. The Evernew material, when I am able to get a hold of products made with it, do you know if there are any ways of knowing that it was made by using the process that Evernew has? Like, is there a tracer, or is there a way to identify that?
Yeah, we do use a tracer. So we've got a natural and botanical based tracer in the product, but it will also be branded as NewCycle. And one of the partners we're working with is Eon. So we're QR coding the products that are using NewCycle so that you can watch a video of how the product was made. You can understand the impact reduction, and you can even learn how to recycle that product back using the Eon technology. And then when the products come back to us, we scan those QR codes again, and we can tell when that product was made and what the recycling recipe is. So if we assume that the recycling technology will evolve over the years, we need to know what we've got on our hands, so that software does help us. Now, what we really want to work on is polymer tagging, and how do we know when we check those polymers back in and redeploy them, and how do we get that sophisticated? I'm not a computer scientist or technologist in that way, but there are people out there that are blowing my minds around how they tag things using blockchain technology. So we'll see. I have hope that we'll crack that code one day.
That's exciting. I'm going to Christina. Did you want to kind of tag team the questions? I know your question's the first one there.
Sure. So the first question is, are the brands that you're working with currently supplying the scrap materials, or how are they acquired?
Yeah, we're working with a large garment recycler. So we're referring the brands and retailers to them. Most of the brands and retailers are already working with them. So we're training them to sort, separate, and grade so that it can come into our process.
Awesome. Because Courtney is on the call and she's on video, I'll just let her read her question. I think you're still on mute, Courtney.
Can you hear me all now?
Yes.
All right, I'm at the airport, so I had my mask on. This is Courtney Cruz, and I'm with Burr. We develop cooling yarn technology. I work with one of your lovely past colleagues, Valentina.
Yes.
Yeah, she's also here.
Hey, Valentina.
She says hola. Hey,
Hola.
I see her. And yeah, the questions that I had, yeah, we've been, I kind of tag team also just on Christina's follow-up question. Again, when you say you're working through a large, partner to help to allocate all that textile waste, are you also looking for more collaboration and partnerships in that space? Because I have somebody to introduce you to.
Always.
Okay, great. So I should just send an email directly to you, or how would you like?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the email for you? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We can get it.
Yeah, well,
we'll do that afterwards.
Courtney,
yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And then my other question is, from a scalability standpoint at your new facility in South Carolina, are you going to be spinning and texturizing the fiber at that facility? And due to the current labor, shortage and those issues in the U.S., kind of what is your strategy around there? Because personally, we've been through the last 2 years trying to scale our U.S. business and having difficulty in making volume spinning of our yarn domestically. So how are you working on that?
Yeah, we're doing spun and filament in this facility. So we're in the engineering phase. So we haven't actually started to install the equipment yet. So we're planning on doing that in 2023. But our team initially we've got master spinners on our team already, 4 people who do fiber extrusion spinning.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes, and labor is a real issue, though. I mean, that's going to be a real challenge. So I'm not sure how we're going to confront that specifically. We haven't encountered it yet.
Yeah, great. Well, let me know if you need support in that. I'll get you connected with Kim Glass with the NCTO. She's the one helping to push the government to get us more people working in the textile industry, right? And making all those programs work together. And so I'm happy to help support you with that. I'm working on that for the last 4 years since I've been stateside.
That's great. I would love that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Purba, can I ask one more question?
Sure, yes.
The question I have for you is in dyeing limitations. Somebody else wrote a question too about, the textile waste, right? And then how you overcome that. Do you have to put it through a bleaching process or how does that work?
Yep, we do use bleach to strip the dyes. So we're doing that. And then the pickup on the new fiber is really very good. So we need less time, temperature, liquor ratio for the resulting fiber. So we're seeing more efficient dye, but there are more available dye sites on the resulting fiber too. So, there are challenges when you've got too heavy of a pickup as well. So we're working through that right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, you want me to ask the next question? This one is from Heather Covert. Is there a limit to the type of polymer or material recycled? I guess what types of fibers are you currently recycling? And then what are all the fibers that you plan to produce?
So the initial fiber, we take cotton waste and we're converting it into recycled lyocell. So that's the first one. And then in R&D, we can break down every fiber and every blend in our labs. But we've got to continue working through those R&D efforts. Generally, it took us about 5 years to get this technology ready to go into commercialization. So we probably need a good 3 or 4 more years to get the others out of R&D and tested. But we've already started purchasing reactors to be able to bring on blend separation when we're ready for that.
That's exciting. The next couple of questions is from Renika. Renika's first question was kind of related to what Courtney asked. Does color in the garments have any impact on the final fiber being produced? And her second question is end of life for the new fiber. Can this go back into the process cycle used on cotton garments?
Yes. So we're right now up to 10 recycling iterations on the fiber. So it can be recycled up to 10 times before the polymer chain is too small to be turned back into new fiber. And in terms of the dyeing, we do have to remove the dyes, like super black, dark black is going to be a challenge for us. Could have up to 7% dye load. So we are finding on black or super black that it's actually 2 different dye technologies. So if we're going to remove super black, you have to take it through 2 different processes, which, we're trying to find ways to make that cost effective, but super black is challenging.
Got it. Yeah. I had a question just about the trims. So when you take a garment, there's a ton of stuff that doesn't belong to the main body. For example, a cotton blouse could have buttons or could have some kind of rivets. What happens to those? You kind of like bundle them up and send them somewhere for recycling?
Yeah, well, it's actually waste in our system right now. We're cutting those things out and then it's considered waste in our system. Our process is not a zero waste process. It's a massive reduction of impact, but it's not a zero impact process.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have 2 more questions. I'll do this one. Okay, so this one is from Katerina. Are there job openings for R&D? Advice for students interested in textile waste industry?
So job openings right now, you can send me your resume and we're always, I can't tell you how many people approach me every week for jobs. We have way more people trying to get into the company than we have positions for, but please send your resume. I'm happy to talk to anybody. And then the other part of that question was?
Advice for students who are interested in the textile waste industry.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think this is one of the greatest design challenges of our century. So I would definitely, stay focused on, there's a lot of work being done in this space for reuse, repair. We're working on depolymerization, so kind of at the final end. But if you look at it, we're all kind of bolting onto each other. But the really big goal is how do we design in a way where we're designing with the end in mind. So we're designing with the, eventuality of these products coming into the waste stream. What do we do with them? How do we process them in a way that is as benign on the environment as possible? So yeah, I would say continue to pursue. I think there's going to be a major expansion in this area. I mean, even, in 2010, when I started this company, in 2015, when we really started to get funded, no one was talking about textile recycling at all in this space. And now it's definitely blown up. So yeah, stay focused on your passion. And I think that the stars will align. That's my advice to you.
So the next question is from Ananda. Can you please talk a little bit about the actual process of how cotton becomes lyocell? Is it that you're using the lyocell production method?
Yes, we are. Well, before you can use lyocell, you have to turn product into pulp. So we're taking cotton waste, we're then converting it into what looks like a paper pulp. Then that paper pulp is being processed one of 2 ways. Either it's going to a fiber producer that is mixing it with dissolving wood pulp and it's running on a conventional lyocell method, or we are processing it using a next gen lyocell method at 100% waste content level. So both of those paths are currently under development right now. Our facility will produce 100% waste lyocell fiber in demonstration quantities. It's going to be 2,000 metric tons a year. So it's still industrial scale, but it's not, it's nowhere near where we need to be if we're really going to cater to the market.
Understood. If you wanted to go for the next question, I know it's yours.
Sure. So my next question is, majority of the donated clothing today in the US is shipped overseas. And if it's rejected by the secondary markets there, it'll go into landfills. So how do you see your company expanding into third world countries to make the most impact?
It's interesting. We found that there are a couple of things. One, I agree, like when you send textiles overseas, even generally these garments are getting incinerated, not landfilled. And incineration, when you look at incineration, there are different qualities of incineration. There's high quality forms of incineration that's being used in Germany. And then there's very, very dangerous, low quality forms of incineration where you basically put a pile of product in a heap, you put gasoline on it and you light a match. And all of those chemicals and auxiliaries we use on textiles do off-gas, and they are carcinogen causing when off-gassed. So, you know, that was originally one of the first things that I was looking at when I started this company. How do we stop that from happening? Right now, we don't have a scaling strategy to go into every country. We're being opportunistic. Like there's legislation coming out in Europe where European textile companies are calling us, asking us to set up licensed facilities in their country because they're up against legislation. It will be illegal in many countries in Europe to throw textiles away by 2030. So they're trying to figure out what their options are. So that makes our technologies very attractive. But we do have to figure out, where is this waste going? How do we sort it, separate it, grade it? How do we process it for chemical recycling? And then how does that fiber then link into the apparel supply chain? Those are all of the things we're really trying to figure out.
Got it. Yeah. So the next question is from Courtney. For the garment trim waste, is there anyone processing or giving it a second life to metal, rubber, hard plastics? Anyone that you know of that's doing it?
There are what are called byproduct brokers out there. Byproduct brokers will take products back if you've got them accumulated in high enough batch sizes. So that could potentially be a use case for us. We're processing at the 1 to 5 metric ton level, which sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's not enough to get any meaningful volume to do anything with. So as we expand our operation, we'll see what kind of waste is accumulating. As an R&D company, Evernew is an R&D company. What we will do is we will try to find a way to redesign those products to either make them recyclable or get those components back to the producer in some way, shape, or form. Like I find branded buttons, trims, grommets, all of those things, if it's got someone's logo on it, in a perfect world, we're able to get those items back to those brands.
Awesome. Go ahead, Christina.
Oh yeah, actually, you know what? Victor Almeida's question and mine were very similar. So the next one is, how does Evernew fiber compare to other recycled lyocell fibers on the market, such as the natural fiber welding Claris, Refibra from Lenzing, or Infina from Infinited Fiber?
Yeah, from what I understand with natural fiber welding, they're dipping their product into ionic liquids. We are actually using a lyocell method that's designed for textile waste. The existing lyocell that exists today was designed for wood pulp, so it can process 30 to 50% textile waste, but it was originally designed for timber, not for cotton garment waste. So we're working with a partner that's helped us develop a lyocell method that is designed for cotton waste, because it's a different pulp standard, because we're using a different feedstock. So that's what makes our product different from traditional lyocell. And then in terms of infinite fiber, I'd have to defer to Christo on the differences between that technology and ours. I'm not exactly sure what kind of technology they're using to make their fiber.
Awesome. The next question is from Ananda. Why did you choose Seattle for your home base, not Carolina or New York, for example? Any reasons related to the industry?
No, I think Seattle chose me. No, I moved out here in 2007, and one of the things that I felt really strongly about when I started this work was I wanted people who think differently and who think about problems differently. And I found in the Seattle area, if you want to take on a sustainability charge in life, this is an incredible place to do that. Lots of sustainably minded people here. So I will have, my parents actually live in South Carolina, so I do have a home base there. I'm originally from New York, so I have a home base there as well. So our team is also virtual. We're all over the country, and we work with, or live near different clients, and work on specific accounts. There's a big online retailer that I'm working with right now in Seattle that I am determined to crack.
I think your determination is definitely contagious, because your spirit of entrepreneurship, just essentially you're taking a problem that is one of the world's biggest problems, and if you've made it a mission that you and your team are going to fully embrace that this is going to be a hard journey, but you're not giving up. So that's really, really commendable. Thank you for being that inspiration and really giving us the courage of like taking hard problems and really going about it. I think we have 10 more minutes. Courtney's next question is, what is your view on biodegradable additives?
I don't know a whole lot about biodegradability, to be honest with you. I would say if, just off the top of my head, I would be very concerned about the dyes and the finishes for the biodegradability, because we do use a lot of polymetallics as well as other types of products in the dyeing and finishing process. So I would say that, when it comes to fiber, if it's just pure fiber, that's one thing. But if you're going to put anything on the fiber, you need to know what you're dealing with to determine the biodegradability.
That's a good answer. And then I think it's a two-part question. And the bio-based oil nylon options like Genomatica that Lulu has adopted.
What about it? What about it?
I guess the question is like, what is your view on that? Do you think it's a good kind of way to go about helping the environment?
I think all options are worth exploring.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a lot about that product as well. So we have not studied that product, so I'm not sure exactly what they're doing, but I would say.
Oh, shoot.
Fan of that.
Yeah, I think I really like your ideology that you're not like one company you're essentially saying that a team needs to solve this problem, and it could be like all these different fibers that are coming out, like Polaris, Refibra,
Yep.
Infina, and Lulu's product as well. So that's
Yes.
really good to hear. That was kind of like the end of our questions. Oh, well, Maria popped one in. How does your technology handle fiber blends?
Yeah, the fiber blending is sensitive because we want to recycle it on the back end. So right now we're not recommending that we blend it with polyester or stretch, which I have had some epic battles around keeping spandex out. That's what actually drew us to develop the recoverable stretch technology, because you can only tell someone no for so many minutes before they do what they want anyway. So, I'm not a supreme ruler in this or a dictator around what people can do. Ultimately, the market will decide what they do. We're trying to take full responsibility for our products. And if we're going to take full responsibility, we need to partner with people to help them figure out ways to solve the problems that they have. Because, you can tell someone no for a couple of minutes, and then you've got to have a solution for them because, they need it. So, yes.
That's really refreshing to hear. This was, I guess, more so a comment, Ananda. Thanking you for your incredibly inspiring talk and question and answer. Ananda is a TDM student at FIT. So
Yay!
definitely
Woo woo!
one can tackle textile waste. So thank you. Yes, that's definitely echoing what I'm feeling right now. That's pretty much the end of our question and answer. So thank you for hanging out with us, Stacy, on a Thursday afternoon. We really appreciate your time and how quickly you were able to kind of come to the table and tell us that, yes, I will be your first speaker. It was really encouraging, especially just to kind of bookend Women's History Month, which is the month of March. So thank you so much for joining us. We will, as a follow-up, send out, is it okay to send out your email so Courtney can connect you to people and
Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll send out a follow-up email to everybody and make sure we keep talking about materials and different ways of connecting with it. So thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your evening, everybody.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.